Ba-bam. Oh my god! Is that too big? It feels too big. Chat, is that bad? I don't know. Is that too big? Feels big. I'm not sure. Anyway. This is Bellular.
Okay, we need to talk about Steam because there's quite a problem right now where anyone can take down any mod on Steam with just a single email. And Valve
large screen is the right size.
Comply. And right now, across Steam Workshop, mod creators are just watching years of work vanish, and it's not because of violated copyright.
Steam needs to get on this. You just allow the companies to start just taking down mods? They're gonna take down all the mods, even if there's nothing wrong with them.
Boka's still tiny though. Also, how long is the video? If it's longer than 15 minutes, best to leave it for later.
Oh, we're watching it.
It's not like someone's just went and, I don't know, grabbed a thing from Warner Bros. That Warner Bros. Doesn't want to be a mod. No, this is the abuse of a system. And that's because a law that is supposed to protect copyright is being weaponized, and bad actors have figured out exactly how to exploit it. And it's very much on trend with 2025 stories, because be it laws or, you know, in this story, systems...
Yeah, welcome to 2025, man.
Like the payment process.
Attack on Gamers, the year.
Stuff. It's clear
Hi, Squirrel!
Valve is earning billions off Steam. My god, it is coming with quite a huge ball ache. Just a quick question. Did you see the headline saying that a 20-kilometer-long alien invasion spaceship is heading to Earth right now? Kind of
No, it's not!
hilarious story. And yes, Javi Loeb, that one Harvard professor, does suggest that the interstellar object may be worth investigating, but Grounded News shows me how some outlets did turn this into an impending alien invasion. I mean, check out these actual headlines. We've got America First reporting study reveals potential hostile alien threat. And then the aptly named Signs of the Times literally wrote, possible hostile alien threat detected. Meanwhile, buried in the actual story,
Anyone got a bunker with internet connection? Is the volume a bit low? I'm sorry, guys.
NASA confirmed that it's a natural object with weak cometary activity. And when we look at this in ground, we can actually see the bias breakdown. The right-leaning sources, guys, like they kind of went full Independence Day talking about hostile aliens. That's a quote. The more center outlets were split between sensationalist alien spacecraft angles trying to get clicks and the actual science. The left sources, well, rats guys, you mostly stuck to the fact, saying it's the third interstellar object that we have spotted. But here's the kicker. Only 86% high factuality across these sources, which is way lower than usual because, well, so many outlets wanted to tell you that there's a 20-kilometer long alien spacecraft that's about to invade Earth. Does seem
Okay.
pretty good for views. But this kind of thing, while humorous,
Attack on Gamers? Attack on the World. I don't know which.
is exactly why ground news is invaluable. Now here we mostly talk about gaming, tech, the internet. You can follow all of those topics in ground as well, of course, as science and space. And, you know, politics, which, gotta be real, ground is absolutely killer for. Now, if you go to ground.news/Bellular, right, you'll get 40% off unlimited access with the Vantage plan. Plan that I use. It is the best price you'll get, and being real, if you enjoy what this channel brings you.
You know what I hope they are? I hope it's alien cat girls. They take over and like games so much they make it where gamers are protected species or something. That'd be funny!
Well, ground is pretty down aligned with our mission on YouTube. I'll begin with the way.
It's not gonna happen though.
wave of attacks. We saw a Reddit post on r/Steam from user SignificantFig6290, and this thing really caught fire. It then spread. As an example, Vice reported it, saying that Steam is being flooded with DMCA notice strikes. This is, of course, on the workshop. Games Pressure highlighted this as a major Steam workshop crisis. It spread all over the place. And
for those of you who are wondering, the literal reason it's getting attacked is companies want to monetize mods. So they're probably paying people or doing it themselves and acting like bad actors to try to get all these mods taken down so that it frustrates people into going to sites like... Yeah, it's basically a censorship war.
basically, mod creators and players are alleging fraudulent claims. And this whole thing, as is experienced by, say, the average Steam user, basically is you're playing a game, that game has got a mod, then the mod just goes and disappears. You don't really know why. There's chaos everywhere, perhaps even some drama, which I'll get to shortly, but you also find that your saves are broken. So it is massively frustrating.
I'm gonna cry if they hit Darkest Dungeon, because I just got it where there's like a decent, like really cool modded run that I'm almost ready to start playing on stream. Because I almost got back to where we were.
Now, it turns out a lot of this is because a system can be exploited. But to try and get a handle on what's actually happening here, Reddit users did something spicy. They went and filed DMCA reports with knowingly false information. And the reason why is they wanted...
Reddit! Go attack these countries right now. They're the ones attacking you. Leave gamers alone.
To test, basically, how does this system work? And quite simply, Valve does not review these things. Now let's talk about how this has actually hit real gaming communities. There's a fairly big one in the form of Hearts of Iron 4, and it's where this started, but it's hit other games as well. It's hit Left 4 Dead 2 with custom campaigns and character mods, Terraria, where quality of life mods have been hit, Gary's mod, where Prop Hunt was briefly hit, it's now restored, and then City Skylines 2 got hit, including a very popular mod called Move It, which, you know, if you've played games like that, the tools that allow you to just have more fine-grained placement of things, for many people, those are core to the game basically being playable. Another game that was hit was then Stellaris with some UI overhaul.
Leave my Stellaris alone!
Mods. So none of this is great. And for the mod creators in the receiving end, what they basically
bye, baby.
Is this.
Have a good
They either
time.
accept the deletion of their mod, or they can fight back. Now, fighting back means filing a counter notice. Filing a counter notice requires your full legal name, your address, which very often will be your home address. Now, maybe if you've got a business address, you can do that, but if you don't, you kinda can't. So,
Steam, please fix this. Steam having unfortunately a way for people to dox you was not on my bingo card list for this year.
all of that info, your phone number as well, and guess where that gets forwarded to? By law, it gets forwarded to the claimant, which obviously is quite a large security risk if people are basically abusing this system. But you might be wondering, why? Why the hell is any of this happening? Well, attention to this story really spiked when one specific mod dispute blew up, and it showed how bad actors can just exploit this system. And it happened with Hearts of Iron. And the mods are the Fire Rises, which is a very popular mod for the game, and Long Rising of Darkness, which is a Chinese-created mod that uses the Fire Rises as its base. Top marks if you can maybe work out where this story's going. The two mod teams had a falling out, and a DMCA was filed against Long Rising of Darkness. Now, that meant that mod was taken down. The teams then reportedly resolved their dispute privately, but the original mod was taken down by Valve, and the DMCA was not withdrawn in time. Now, the mod has been re-uploaded under a new title, but that was hit by another DMCA on 10th. Now, from what we understand, the teams had already made up by then, so this was maybe unrelated trolls, because a slew of Hearts of Iron 4 mods were hit. And the reason they were hit is quite simple. Bad actors learned a lesson from this. And this led to spillover, where similar takedowns spread all across Steam. Very, very simple pattern. Popular mods get targeted, somebody claims ownership, files one of these, the mod vanishes, and no documentary like proof of their claim. No sort of accuracy is required. And this meant a lot of people were pissed off at Valve, basically thinking, guys, what the hell? This is an insane system to exist. Now, obviously, I'm here in YouTube, and over in YouTube, we're pretty used to the digital millennium.
What's worse is YouTube is worse. And 1,000% more worse. Because not only do they not really have to show any proof at all, but also they don't have to immediately, like, answer you. They can wait. Let your video die in the algorithm. And then lift it. And they either get paid for that, because they get the money while they're DMCAing you or copywriting you. They could do a thing where they copyright, monetize shared or monetize claim, where they get all the money or half the money, and it kills it in the algorithm. Which, like, the audacity that I get claimed by some people that there's no way I'm using any of your music. I use Chiru's music and Moverly's. Moverly's and Chiru are my two favorite background music makers that are no copyrights. I've asked them both, and they have both said yes. So I know I can use their music. And I shout them out in my YouTube videos all the time. So you claiming it and saying, oh, but my music's in there. No, it's not. It might slightly sound like your music in some tiny part of my video, but that doesn't mean you get to have my entire video. How does that make sense? Megatron! Micah Megatron, welcome to the stream. Have you want to time? Welcome to Dragon Cave.
Copyright Act. So let's talk about it. Okay, here's the legal reality. The DMCA, which is the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, has got a fun little thing called Section 512, and it works like this. Whenever someone sends Valve a compliant copyright claim, Valve has got to act expeditiously to keep its Section 512 safe harbor. If Valve does not do that, they risk losing their Section 512 safe harbor protections, and once that's lost, they are exposed to liability, extreme liability, like billions in potential damages. If you know the deeper history of YouTube, you will know that there are some humongous legal cases, well, that basically did shape how the entire platform works. And that basically is why platforms remove first. They're basically not adjudicating the truth. What they're doing is they're managing liability. If you're a huge company, it's kind of understandable why they do that.
Like, yeah, that makes sense. They're a big company, they have to admit it. But people like YouTube, not even that. They're just like, oh, it's yours? Okay, you can have the money. We're not even gonna confirm. We're not gonna make them show us proof that they own it. I feel like that should be the first step. Show unequivocal proof. If it's like less than a minute or a minute long clip, and I don't hear any actual music in that clip, or it's just a bit of sounds, or I'm talking, you're copyrighting me and saying I'm your property? Hello?
You want to fight back? Yes.
Hello?
File a
Hello?
notice. But here's the thing. By law, that counter notice, as I said, includes your name, your address, your phone, and a perjury statement. And the platform must forward that to the claimant, which could be a big company's legal team, or in this case, could just be a troll. And that means you're giving personal information, often a home address, unless you've got a business or a council address, to someone who is already attacking you.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
there's then a 10 to 14 business day clock. If the claimant doesn't file a lawsuit, the platform must restore access. If they do file a lawsuit, then your content will generally stay down while that case proceeds. And in practice, what this means is, I mean, if you want to rustle Jimmy's, man, you can really do it, right? This is so easy to abuse, where bad actors can just trigger takedowns with a decent enough looking compliance form. That means that content gets disrupted for like 10 to 14 days. And then...
Which is too many days. in this kind of like area of creation and stuff.
Creators, well, if they want to deal with the problem, they face real safety risks and legal risks to get that stuff restored. But here's the thing. This is not Valve Corporation being lazy. This is United States copyright law, and it is...
Can we all agree that Disney was a plague upon that office? That corporations allowing them to pay to mess with the copyright law ruined it to the point where it is god-awful and might as well just be gotten rid of. Like, I can understand a slight new law that kind of protects original created works and stuff, but I think there should be a cutoff of like 30 years or something where you can't complain if something looks like your stuff. Like, if it's a blatant ripoff, sure. But if it's like, say, like, Blood and Honey or whatever that show was, you could get over it. It's there.
fundamentally broken for user-generated content at this scale. Let's talk about...
Luckily, I've never gotten a strike because they'd never be able to prove it. I think you have to prove it if it's strike. I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But claims piss me off because they could just take the monetization from that video. Even if it did really good and they had nothing to do with it, it's theirs. They could take half that money. Sometimes all of it. Oh, Nintendo's already suffering.
Valve's response, or
I'm gonna get into that tomorrow, probably.
rather Valve's lack of response. So number one, there was a big press pressure effect where this was, well, all over the place. Vice, Game Pressure, loads of others picked up this story, and we then found that as the story caught on, many of the affected mods were quietly
Don't do that, Matt.
restored. As an example, Prop Hunt and Gary's mod is now back up, several Hearts of Iron 4 mods have been restored, and it does look like Valve have done some cleanup here. But then the story does get a little weird. If you kind of go back to Reddit, you see that the same Reddit poster, Significant Fig, edited their post, the post that went viral. Now, it was edited to say, "We've achieved a preliminary victory." And it says, quote, "After testing with some Steam users, Valve will now delete non-compliant DMCA reports, suspend reporter Steam community access, and that when they do that, the suspension reason will allegedly be, quote, part of a group spamming the DMCA tool." That all does look quite good, but it is...
That's hopeful. That gives me hope.
Post. And it's a Reddit post that, well, isn't really containing of much hard proof. I mean, it says, after testing with some Steam users. Don't really know what that is, right? There's no screenshots of, like, official Valve communication here.
I don't think they can do that. But I trust Steam because usually when they address it like that, they usually mean that they're doing something. Yeah, claims are automatic. Claims... There are people that have made bots that just claim you. With no proof whatsoever, and they get half the money.
You could say it's convenient edit to a viral post. It could be taking some credit.
I don't think I could ever get a strike because I go out of my way not to... I do my very best not to take people's content, and then we don't monetize streams where we do, like, we have actual music on the stream.
For Valve doing one-off cleanup.
Which we haven't done in a while.
For example, PC Games and run this news in, I'd say, a way that maybe oversells the idea that Valve have made a big policy change without that really being, like, properly sourced. What I can say is, here's what we actually know. Valve appears to have cleaned up this specific wave of abuse after press attention. Some mods have been restored, and the obvious trolling has stopped. But there has been zero evidence of actual policy change. We haven't got an official statement. There have been no updated guidelines, right? Like the Steam rules, if those were up.
Well, no, I'm not jinxing myself. I said, like, clearly I try my very best not to. Like,
Updated, we would know. There are no new protections for creators.
too late.
Valve are working on something like that.
Hope not.
The system that has allowed all of this to happen does appear to basically be exactly the same. That means that the next wave of trolls would probably just use the same exploits if they really wanted to. Support tickets are still getting generic responses from Valve, and many developers are still hiding mods for protection, basically until this all blows over and we know what's actually going on. So essentially, it's a familiar pattern. A crisis happens, press cover it, Valve then, cleans up the worst examples, but the system stays broken until the next wave of drama. And this all begs the question, is this a solvable problem? And I guess the broader thing, is there anything Valve could actually do to make this whole thing better?
I don't think they could do much more. But obviously, basically, they did something more than YouTube did, which is, like, you mess up once with Steam, they're just gonna ban you for a while and make it where you can't copyright someone else.
And unfortunately, it's not really looking too bright. Here are the sort of things that Valve could do within Section 512. They could require stricter identity verification to actually send notices, the sort of thing that would filter out trolls. They could implement some rate limiting for serial reporters. They could perhaps
Rate limiting would definitely be one.
create some trusted creator programs. They could provide guidance on using business and council addresses so that mod makers aren't worried that the only way to get their mod back up is to give a troll their personal identifiable information. And they could also add human review for suspicious cross-game patterns, as in people who are just firing off loads of takedowns across mods for different games.
Definitely do that. We'll skip ahead some, too.
Within your game. And, I mean, for one example here, we've seen that Castle Crashers is adding user-generated content tools. And it's a 17-year-old game. And going back to Electronic Arts, if you look at the stuff for Battlefield...
I really hope the Castle Crasher stuff does good, because I love it!
It has got pretty damn insane, custom game mode, custom map making things. Seriously, it's not just server settings, it's basically in-game sort of mod creation tools that are built using the Godot engine, so it's quite something. Now, there's deeper problems as well, because if you break a mod ecosystem, that can actually kill communities. It can lead to corrupted saves, fractured multiplayer, and now a bit of a chilling effect where some creators are hiding their work preemptively. And of course...
Oh, you're making one, North?
...are absolutely, a valid form of artistic expression. That means that there are mods that people may not agree with. Mods that people might find offensive. And then a system like this could be abused.
Which server? I have Nox joining too. Do you have anyone joining?
We have people joining, yes. We have Mumu joining so far. And I think someone else? Not sure. Give me a few seconds.
Take those mods down. I think this is obviously a bad thing. But what it also is Valve. And if you're not from, I guess, my generation or a little bit older, you might not even know what these things are. Napster, LimeWire. If you wanted music, you would just download it. And that obviously led to rights holders being very, very pissed off. And, in quite a few ways, kind of fair enough, people were just pirating their stuff, and I guess the guy who kind of got us out of this mess, or helped us get out of this mess, it's kind of Gabe, it's kind of Valve. When they said that piracy is a service problem, the core idea, people are often okay for, or happy to buy a product. It's just, they want it to be, to be good, to be...
He's not wrong. 100%. Cat is demanding feeding, yeah. But yeah, 100% it's service issue. I want to eventually start making my own game.
That's where, say, iTunes and Spotify ended music taken down from a piracy website. It's not at all designed for the situation we currently find ourselves in. And it's a US law. Congress appears unlikely to fix this soon. And it's not to say there can't be legitimate disputes. We had one recently within game. In here, I don't think this is a malicious situation from them. I think they're essentially trapped by a law written before Steam even existed. DMCA abuse.
Copyright law needs to be fixed better to where it's not as abusable, especially by the companies that do it. Because right now it's just kind of abused. I don't think it's that big of an issue right now, but it looks like it might be. And I think that's what people are saying is they need to get ahead of it. Which I don't blame them. But yeah, that was Bellular. We just kind of briefly touched on it. But it's definitely like worth a look. Don't forget to give it a like, guys. It's Bellular. I mean, like a Bellular. Boka Tiny Dragon Adventure. I'm gonna fight you guys. But that was Bellular. Yay! How much I hate this company. I was gonna cover this. Pause the chat. Cause I'm what? What about Squirrel? Hi, Squirrel. Did you just call me out? No, totally not. Let's go! Legendary drops! My man, my ball! That's extremely rude. I didn't do it, though.
I'm not gonna lie, this one hurts. Today we are performing an autopsy on Bungie, one of the most prolific game studios in the entire games industry. One that was...
Is that good? Is that good sound, guys? So if we're good sound, we'll keep going. Do 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 do. Seems fine. Okay.
largely responsible for popularizing...
Hi, Shizu, I love you.
Hell, these guys were the ones that brought gaming into the mainstream.
A bit more volume, if you guys say so.
As they rose to the highest of heights, they become nothing more than a cautionary tale of greed and mismanagement. This is the same studio that gave us Halo, that built Destiny, that at one point represented the future of the game.
Here's the thing. I knew Destiny was destined to fail the second they started doing that thing where they would rotate. Not even rotate. They would... what's it called? What did they call it? They would vault content you paid for. Like, I really liked the game, and then they vaulted one of the contents I hadn't finished yet. And I was like, what the hell? Why can't I play this content that I bought? And I was like, what the frick? And then I found out that that's just what they do. We're sorry. We might bring it back eventually. Never did. Never did!
Industry. Yet here we are now, watching them collapse under the weight of their own arrogance, incompetence, endless layoffs, and a community that no longer wants to defend them. They went from making some of the most...
Which, like, I'm glad people are starting to wake up. Like, I already stopped defending them that, like, the day they took away my content. And then, like, some people have the audacity to support them. And I was like, you're what's bad with gaming. You don't understand it, but you are. You're allowing them to get away with a concept I would never want to happen.
Most recognized and beloved games in the industry to now being under threat of having their studio taken away and then folded into PlayStation.
I feel like that's just what they deserve. And let's be honest, PlayStation is just eh. Wicked! Hi, Wicked. I see you on YouTube. Don't worry, Wicked. How are you up early? I am a content queen. I'm gonna have you know. You can go back to YouTube, Wicked. Thank you for letting me know that YouTube was up. Facts! Here's the Venn diagram of, you know what? You know what? We're gonna do this. Because chat did that. I'm gonna pull up a notepad. Oh, wait. You guys can't see this. You know what? You know what? You know what? Give me a sec. Let's do this. You guys are currently saying this. Uh-huh. The actual Venn diagram is I'm trying to think. Who would I put? I guess these guys. There you go. No, any period is above them. Any company that isn't these companies is probably a good company. Actually, let's do this. There we go. Actually, wait. There we go. There you go. There you go.
I don't think that there is a better example of a studio that has wasted its own potential, its own talent, its own games.
DE's way of vaulting is it's not really a vault, it's always rotating like a rotisserie chicken.
Rotisserie chicken? Man, I'm hungry now. Good thing Mama made some hot dogs. Looks about right. I told you, I'm based. I'm so based, I make milk look like water. Bokathedragon! Heh. Hi, Levin. But yeah.
Also simultaneously betraying their audience at every given turn. Cutting content, paying...
I'm surprised a lot of the people that played Destiny didn't notice it. Like, the second... I would say Destiny 1 was okay. It was serviceable. But the second Destiny 2 came out and, like, they killed off, like, the best character, that should have been a sign to everyone that, the last person that liked us is gone. Is the Bungie joke still going? No. He's talking about how they're basically about to die.
Of currencies, stealing fan art. How do you fall that far?
Stealing fan art was, I feel like, the slap in the face that should have woke up everyone. That means you have no respect for your fans.
How do you fall that hard? How do you go from defining the industry to being everything that we hate about it? Well, that's what we're going to find out. Big thanks to Starfort Systems for supporting the channel and sponsoring today's video. They build some of the most powerful custom PCs out there, hand-assembled, stress-tested, and built to last. Whether you want a pre-built rig ready to go or a full custom build, check out Starfort Systems and use my link in the description below. Bungie is at its lowest point in history. Destiny 2 has collapsed to its weakest player count in years. Since the release of The Edge of Fate just a couple of months ago, the game has bled out most of its audience. It's now barely reaching 25,000 players on Steam, which is a loss of more than 90% of the players.
That's because games in that genre are coming out now that are better. Finally.
That they had at the game's peak with Lightfall. Their next project, the extraction shooter Marathon, was revealed this last spring to...
The last of those people that are playing it are either so invested that they can't stop playing, or they're, like, addicted to it. Which, if that's all you have left, do you have anything? Why do you see two large text boxes?
Little more than criticism and controversy, especially after
Where?
it came out that they had lifted art assets from an indie creator. Ultimately, that entire fiasco forced PlayStation to suspend the release of the game indefinitely. So now with Marathon
was never coming out. I don't know about any of you, but if it does come out, and it's true that they're offering $100, $200 to play it at least once for 10 days, I'll do it. I'll give it an honest try. You can send the $500 to me, and I'll give it a try. But that's the only way I'm giving it a try. And giving it an honest try. I won't even roast it for the first 5 days.
in limbo, Destiny 2 spiraling, and CEO Pete Parsons stepping down, Sony has already begun stripping away Bungie's independence and preparing to fold them deeper into PlayStation. Rewind the clock 10 or 20 years ago, and this is one of the greatest studios in the industry. They were untouchable, and nobody could have ever predicted that this is where Bungie...
Here's the thing. Like I said, I saw the writing on the wall. I saw the writing on the wall, like, when they vaulted content. And they, like, I was willing to give them a chance with it, but then they never brought it back. They, like, came out with a new content, and they never mentioned anything about the old content. I was like, they don't plan on bringing it back.
Would end up, but here we are, which means that we have to answer the question how, and to be able to understand that, we need to go back to where it all started. Like so many legendary studios, Bungie's story begins really normally, to be honest with you. In the early 90s, Jason Jones and Alex Seropian had met in college in Chicago, and they bonded over a love of games, and they wanted to build games of their own. They cut their teeth on making titles for the Mac, beginning with a game called Nope, a Pong clone that was made before they even created the studio, and then they followed that up with Operation Desert Storm, a dungeon crawler called Minotaur the Labyrinth.
Sorry, I'm petting the dog.
And then they made their first real FPS game, Pathways to Darkness. But it wasn't until the release of Marathon
You clicked the
that
button?
Bungie
Thank
truly
you,
had made a name for
Cobra.
itself.
How you doing, Cobra?
Marathon was unlike anything that Bungie had built before. Its strange, compelling brand of sci-fi pulled players in, and its vertical level design pushed the experience.
No one has
forward.
answered me
But
yet. How is
what
it
really mattered here was that it came out for Mac, because at the time, shooters and big budget games really just lived on PC or consoles, leaving...
I think that's why Destiny did so good at start, is it was kind of like its own thing. It was like one of the first of its thing, and kind of like it did so good because of that. Lots of stuff to do at work. Oh no! Well, good luck at work. But you got this. You got this! But yeah, like, I think that's what Bungie had going for it at the start. But like I've told you guys before, every game starts out with a little balance, a scale that represents it. All the bad stuff you do adds a weight towards a bad game. All the good stuff you do adds a weight towards good game or like fantastic game. You want it to break the scale on the right side. You want it to. Slowly waking up. Oh, you're awake. You're doing it. You got it. Get you a Dr. Pepper Zero, strawberry and cream, and booster.
Mac players starved for options. Bungie filled that void, but in doing so, they ended up building a loyal following that saw their games as proof that Mac gaming could stand alongside the rest. The success of Marathon, followed by Marathon 2 and Marathon Infinity, cemented Bungie as a cornerstone of Mac gaming and gave them their first taste of real mainstream recognition. Following the success of Marathon, Bungie tried their hand at publishing a few smaller titles while quietly developing their next big project, and in 1997 they released Myth: The Fallen Lords in RTS, and it became their fastest selling game to date. I think the reason why Bungie was so successful at this point comes down to what they themselves described in an IGN documentary. They were young, stupid, idealistic, and above all, ambitious. They weren't just running a corporation. They were a group of friends that were making games that they wanted to play. If you go back and you watch some of the footage of their earlier days, you can see it plain as day. None of these guys were shooting any of these videos with the intention of it being in a documentary. No, they were just running around with camcorders because that's what everybody else did at the time. The office was full of pranks, jokes, and chaos, but underneath it all was a philosophy that drove everything that they had made. They were their own customers.
I think it all starts with the idea that we were our own customer and that anybody else who was going to play our games, we were in their shoes.
And the spirit of that was tested almost immediately, because when Bungie released Myth 2, it shipped with a critical issue where the installer was wiping players' hard drives with no patches or day one updates to be able to save them. Bungie then had to recall nearly 500,000 copies and replace them at their own expense. It cost the company millions of dollars and nearly sank the studio, but it showed exactly what kind of company they were. Oh my, how times have changed. That was Bungie when they first started. They were their own customer. They were making games for themselves. And I think when you look at their early success, that
kind of explains it, though. They were their own customer up until, like, Destiny 1, in which case they became in it for the money. So they were less interested in the aftermath of their decisions. They slowly became less and less interested over time in that aspect. I think Destiny 1 was the start. Probably not even the start. I would say the first, like, DLC release was the start. Because from what I recall, Destiny 1 was just good at the start. And then the first DLC released, and I think, was it the first DLC release or was it the game release where they had the, I think it was, you pre-ordered the game and you got, what was it, Shatterhorn or whatever, like the rocket launcher that kind of just broke the game. Oh yeah, they'll definitely do that. But I would say wherever I think it was Shatterhorn. I can't remember the name of the like rocket launcher shotgun or whatever it was. It was one of the two. But that weapon, I feel like, was the precursor to what we have today. It was a clear sign that they didn't care about the aftermath of their decisions. And once you have a company that doesn't care about the aftermath, it's clear that all they care about is the money.
Makes a lot of sense. I think that you have to be selfish in the games industry. I mean, you have a ragtag group of nerds and geeks that like sci-fi and fantasy games, and that's what they were trying to make for themselves. They weren't thinking about what...
Like I said, like what he's saying, I liked Destiny 1 up until the first rotation. Like when they rotated something into the vault. Which we found out later is literally deleting it.
Anybody else wanted them to make. They just wanted to make the games that they themselves wanted to play. We were our own customers.
Which means I could have sued them then. And we wouldn't have some of these games today like they are, where they take away your content.
We were in their
Bad Boca.
shoes. That line seems to come up almost every single time I ever talk about either successful developers or ones that are failing. Because at the end of the day, I think that that's where success in this industry starts and stops. If you do not understand the perspective of your customers...
Exactly. When you don't care about the aftermath of your decisions, you stop being for the customer.
You cannot feel what they feel, then how are you supposed to provide anything of value to them? After the financial disaster of Myth 2, Bungie doubled down on their next project, Halo, and I don't know what it was. Maybe it was just the financial...
Halo 1 was amazing. I played Halo 1 and beat Halo 1. I loved Halo 1. That was the game that started getting me interested in, like, Easter eggs and stuff. Which, like, that just should surprise you all, since I played Legend of Zelda and stuff. My first game ever was Ocarina of Time. Then I played Digimon World 1, then 2, then 3. Pokemon Red. I want to say Pokemon Red was before the Digimon Worlds. Then I got a PlayStation and started playing like Digimon Worlds and stuff. Played... I'm trying to remember what I played. Spyro. Digimon Rumble Arena. Then I got a GameCube. Legend of Zelda was like my thing for a while. I played a ton of games. Like Pokemon Coliseum. Pokemon Coliseum XD. DK Rap. Like the Bongos game. But yeah, like, when I played computer, Destiny 1 was one of the games I played. I mean, not Destiny 1, Halo 1. I kind of started playing 2, I think, if I remember correctly, but I'd never, like, really played it.
Financial pressure of these guys almost going under. Maybe they just had the right people at the right time, but their talent went through the roof. Marcus Leto leveled up in art direction. Joseph Staten stepped in as a writer and cinematic lead. Chris Butcher drove the engineering. Chris Barrett refined the visuals. In just a few years, this scrappy Mac studio that was making quirky RTS games and dungeon crawlers was suddenly building something unrecognizable. It jumped so big that, honestly, I just don't understand it. Halo debuted at Macworld with none other than Steve Jobs introducing it, and for the reveal trailer, Bungie had brought back Marty O'Donnell, who had scored Myth 2, and they only gave this guy a vague description of a mythical ancient alien world, and what he would then deliver for that trailer is now the most iconic theme in all of gaming, the Halo theme. But even as they pushed forward creatively, Bungie was still deep in financial trouble. They were not good at managing money, they were good at making games, and the impact of the millions lost on Myth 2's launch was finally starting to take its toll. So, following the reveal of the game, they began quietly searching for somebody to acquire them. They knew that Microsoft was preparing to launch a new console, so they reached out to Ed Freeze, head of Xbox. Freeze, completely desperate for talent and flagship titles, jumped at the chance to be able to acquire them. The deal went through, and Microsoft made Halo the centerpiece of its new console. Now, at the time, first-person shooters lived on...
Like, this was why... This is... The whole, like, this is why Halo was on just the Xbox kind of thing. Well, and on PC eventually. I think... a smart company would have made it where Halo 2 and on... No. Scratch that. Now that I think about it fully. Yeah, it should have just stayed on the Xbox and PC. But, like, their issue came with they never really, like, did good after Halo 2 or 3.
PC. Games like Doom and Quake thrived on mouse and keyboard precision, and most people doubted whether or not first-person...
Halo soundtrack is amazing.
Halo
Yeah, the first
Evolved
one's
ended up
soundtrack
launching on the
was-
Xbox and it proved
Hi, Active.
everybody wrong. Its tight controls redefined what shooters could be on the platform,
Nostalgia
setting the
hitting right
standard
now.
for how FPS games would feel on consoles even today. When Halo released, I don't know, man, this game was an enigma. Its campaign and PvP were perfect, and you just...
I actually liked the PvP in Halo 1.
had never played anything like it before, and its LAN-enabled multiplayer just created this instant community around it. We'd hook up multiple Xbox consoles for 16-player matches. It just became the game that everybody wanted to get together to play, and it wasn't just about playing the game, it was about the shared memories that that game brought with it. But this is also the moment where things took an unexpected turn, because after the release of Halo and during the development of Halo 2, Bungie's priorities began to shift, and I'd argue that this is the moment where everything changed for them, because remember, Bungie was a Mac-first developer with a loyal audience that carried them through their early years. They would not be where they were without them. The original agreement they had for Halo was for that game to be multi-platform, and Microsoft had already commissioned Gearbox to port the game to PC and Mac. But then, Microsoft and Xbox's marketing team, along with Bungie's own manager under Microsoft, Pete Parsons, canceled the ports, forcing the game to be exclusive. Now, I'm not saying that...
That's what I was about to say. Why did they think it would be smart to basically screw over your entire fan base? Did Halo do good? Yes. But it put a big black mark on your record, and you only get so many of those.
This betrayal of the PC and Mac fans was the sole reason for Bungie to go down the wrong path, but this is the moment where control started to slip, when making games stopped being about the players who got them there and started being about something else entirely, something that only got worse with the development of Halo 2. Bungie wanted to push Halo 2 further than anything that they had done before, but the project slipped into chaos. Deadlines started slipping, Microsoft's patience started to run dry, and executives were reportedly pressuring the developers to sleep in their own offices just to keep the machine moving. The same group of nerds that were once making games for themselves were now getting crushed under corporate schedules. Bungie asked for another year, but Microsoft said no. For Bungie, this wasn't just a scheduling issue, it was survival. Rushing Halo 2 risked undoing everything that they had already built, and the standoff between the two got so heated that Ed Freeze, one of Xbox's top leaders, quit the company in frustration. Bungie eventually ended up getting their delay, but they lost their strongest ally, and with him, the last traces of the carefree studio that they used to be. And I think what's crazy is that despite all of this, their talent was still undeniable. Halo 2 was more than just a sequel, it was a cultural event. It sold 2.4 million copies in the first 24 hours. It raked in $125 million, becoming the fastest selling piece of media at the time. It was the moment that gaming fully entered into the mainstream, and beyond sales, Halo 2 revolutionized online multiplayer. Through Xbox Live, players could actually form clans and climb leaderboards and compete in a global community. It wasn't just a continuation of Halo's story, it defined what online gaming could be for consoles, and it cemented Bungie as one of the most important studios in gaming history. But that success came at a cost, because going big time, locking in with Microsoft, abandoning their old Mac audience, even if it wasn't their choice, it reshaped the studio. The Bungie that was...
Never forget your early supporters, ever. That's always a
is now tied to
death
something
knot.
much bigger, and the weight of that partnership was starting to show. The development of Halo 2 was the moment where Bungie finally realized what they had signed up for. Microsoft now has one of the most important games in the industry, and there was no world in which they were going to let Bungie work on anything else. With every release, expectations grew even heavier, and as soon as Halo 2 had shipped, Bungie was pushed straight into Halo 3. Now, on the surface, the development of Halo 3 was going smoothly, but inside the studio, resentment was building. Leadership had already begun whispering about escape and starting talks with Microsoft about going independent, knowing that they had been chained to Halo forever under Microsoft's oversight. And yet, under that pressure, they did it again. In 2007, Halo 3 launched to $170 million in sales in the first 24 hours. Halo 3 was an enormous leap over...
I think Papa has, or at least had, a Halo 1, 2, and 3.
Halo 2, powered by the Xbox 360's hardware. Visually, it was unrecognizable compared to earlier games.
He's not a gamer, so that shows you how big those games are.
Delivered on nearly every single front. Forge mode, a revolutionary tool that let us make our own maps and create our own content. Theater mode, where we could record, edit, and share gameplay clips. Dedicated servers that gave multiplayer stability and consistency that we just never even saw on console. And a campaign that stretched even longer than whatever they had made before, delivering some of the most cinematic, satisfying experiences imaginable. But at the height of their success, Bungie was still looking at the exit. Following Halo 3's release, they announced that they were going to be separating from Microsoft, citing a desire to have some creative freedom and return to their roots as an independent studio. Under the deal, Microsoft would retain rights to Halo, while Bungie would continue developing the franchise for a few more years before they fully parted ways. In that stretch, Bungie oversaw Halo Wars, they followed it up with Halo ODST, and finally, in 2010, Halo Reach marked both the studio's farewell to Halo and the end of their official partnership with Microsoft. It was the close of an era. Looking back on it now, it's crazy that despite all the chaos...
From what I understand, everyone likes Halo Reach, right? Or am I wrong about that? I can't remember.
And the pressure that Bungie was under, they never seemed to break. They had already secured their independence from Microsoft. They could have just coasted, quietly quit, or just phoned it in, but instead, every single release, every game they had seemed to just raise the bar even higher. And while Halo 3 might be the most popular entry in the series...
Pretty sure he's completed all of them. I do know for a fact he completed 1 and 2. I'm not 100% on 3, but... like, knowing that he usually completed games back then he probably did.
Reach was just something else entirely. It showed just how much Bungie had matured and how their skills had developed over the years, and to this day, I do not think that there's been a better FPS story than...
Got a little flack for not having Master Chief, but they're still good. Okay.
...that I have played. Going back to the beginning,
so.
delivering Cortana to the Pillar of Autumn, watching the sacrifices of Noble Team unfold, it was devastating, it was emotional, it was unforgettable. Nobody expected Bungie to tell a story like that, and it left an impact that I think still defines them for many fans even today. For a lot of us, Reach wasn't just a farewell to Halo, it was the moment that we remember Bungie forever. I'll be honest with you guys, for some of you folks that watch this channel that are a little...
Mama! I saw your stream! You did so amazing! I'm so proud for you! You little glitcher.
A little bit on the younger side, maybe you guys only know Bungie for Destiny. I'm sorry. It's next to impossible for me to be able to explain just how much their studio and their games meant to gamers worldwide. It's like their existence just made gaming better.
You passed out before responding. You're fine. I knew you were probably tired. That's why I didn't say anything afterwards. I was like, well, they're probably asleep. Oh, so happy!
Across the board. It rose the standard for everybody out there. Their storytelling was peerless, their gameplay was flawless, and as a result of that, I think it made the rest of the industry want to do better.
I love what you did with your new model.
Raising the standard with every single game that they...
No, your GPU died midstream. Is your GPU okay?
they released. And I didn't realize this until I started researching for this video, but I think the reason why we saw such a golden age in the Xbox 360 era isn't just because of nostalgia, it's just because Halo was that fucking good. It was impossible to ignore. If you were a company that was making video games, you needed to be learning something off of what Bungie was doing, because
Okay, good.
if you weren't, you were failing. And I mean, the advancements that Bungie had made just for first-person shooters on a console is just next level. I mean, they brought them to the console in the first place. They brought the entire genre to the console. It's like I said at the beginning of the video, the controls that you
Mama, you want to play some Warframe on me today?
play on a controller today
We're doing
are
more
some
Caliban
variation of Halo
grinding and
controls.
stuff.
You could not perfect perfection. These guys created a standard. Everybody else had to follow it. But those standards started to shift. The minute that these guys left Xbox was the minute that everything started to fall apart for them. Whether it was indecisiveness, whether it was the financial pressure.
From what I understand, the reason it started falling apart, didn't they put someone from Microsoft in charge of them or something?
Of them going independent. Maybe it was also their changes in leadership. All of the issues that they had that started at
No, don't say that.
Halo and then on.
Don't
started
say
to
that,
bear
Lurvin.
fruit. And the image and the reputation that Bungie had built for itself was going to fall apart. While Bungie was still working on Halo 3 ODST and Reach, they were also working in the background on a game that they had planned to launch once they had gone independent, codenamed Project Tiger, later revealed as Destiny. After,
From what I understood, it was either Destiny 1 or Destiny 2 that the guy from Microsoft got in charge of them or something like that.
cutting ties with Microsoft, Bungie then signed a 10-year publishing
Then your theory is the next Halo is going to be made by Activision? Oh, God.
deal with Activision in 2010. Why did these guys think that was going to be a better deal for them? And it didn't take long for things to spiral out of control. In 2013, only a year before launch, Bungie leadership scrapped the original campaign written by Joe Staten, the veteran who had helped shape some of Halo's most iconic narratives. Staten then left the studio shortly after, and the campaign was rebuilt.
Why would you do that? So much of this sounds bad.
Leaving Destiny's story incoherent at launch. When Destiny launched in 2014, expectations were sky high, and MMO shooters were coming from the studio that never misses. It felt like a dream, but in reality, it was a stumble that nobody ever saw coming. The gunplay was incredible, pure Bungie, but everything else around it was hollow. The story was weak, the content was thin, and the grind was absolutely relentless. It was a fun and frustrating experience at the same time, a game that felt great to play, but gave you nothing meaningful to do. Bungie's support really didn't help the situation either. Content droughts dragged on, balance patches absolutely gutted some of the most popular weapons in the game, and over time it just became less fun to play. Expansions like The Dark Below and House of Wolves added scraps that felt more like cut content from launch, while The Taken King finally delivered the overhaul that players wanted all along, but only behind another paywall. By then, the sense was already clear. Destiny had not launched unfinished by accident. Bungie was selling back the missing pieces later. Oh, I remember being so mad about this. The Dark Below was an absolute ripoff. Crota's End was a cool raid, but that expansion was just like one strike, a couple story missions, and a couple PvP maps. It all felt like cut content that should have been there since day one. Same thing goes for House of Wolves.
Yeah. Like, that just screams Activision all the way, by the way. They're like the epitome of, let's cut content and sell it to you later.
Time Taken King came along, yes, that was actually worth it. It finally made the game feel like the Destiny that was always pitched to us. But then Bungie comes in and puts in the Eververse store, bringing in microtransactions into a fully priced game with expansions. And that was like somebody walking into a 5-star restaurant and taking a shit on the table that you're eating at. You can ignore it, but you can still smell it. Now, I'll say this, maybe it's speculation, but I do not think that timing was a coincidence. This had Activision's fingerprints all over it, and likely Pete Parsons...
I'm telling ya, Activision all over it.
As well. Remember, Parsons was Bungie's manager under Microsoft. After leaving Xbox, he came back to Bungie later on to be their head of marketing. And
yeah. You let the corrupted consume the water. You let the tainted, not even tainted, you let the cursed idol touch your hand, basically. The call is coming from inside the house. You allowed him into a place of, like, control.
Not long after the Eververse store appeared, he was named CEO of the company. From
yeah.
that point forward, the influence of Activision and Parsons' leadership steered Bungie in a direction that would slowly but decisively erode everything that studio once stood for. I think it's worth pointing out just how fast their priorities had flipped. Think about where we started. This was a company that valued their independence, that wanted to make the games that they wanted to play, that shared the perspective of their audience because they were their audience. But the minute that they broke free of Microsoft, they immediately and just went and handed that over to Activision. For what? Money. Suddenly their games were rushed, stories were scrapped, what was sold to us was entirely unfinished, and instead of fixing it, these guys are selling it back to us as DLC. At this point, they have completely shed the loyalty that they once felt for the audiences that built them to what they were at the time. And that's not the Bungie that anybody recognized. All it took was one game in 4 years for them to become that. And then came the microtransactions. What happened to we are our players? It's always funny when I hear that from developers where they say that they share our perspective. How many developers pay for microtransactions in their own games?
0.
I'd really like to know. Actually, you don't need to tell me because I already know. As somebody that's been sponsored by video games in the past, I know that to them, it's just a button press on the back end. They don't know what it's like. It's money to us. To them, it's nothing.
Yeah, what's crazy is the developers that support the full price games but with microtransactions don't understand microtransactions. Because they could just give themselves stuff. Yeah, the vaulting part was what really sent me away from them.
That's the moment that Bungie lost perspective of their players. They stopped being us, and they started preying on us. When Destiny 2 launched in 2017, it was clear that Bungie had learned from at least some of their mistakes. Cutting support from the first game so quickly was frustrating for a lot of players, but the sequel was a massive improvement. The story was much more coherent, the campaign was cinematic, the launch was packed with content, there was more planets, better boss fights, and more weapons. It wasn't perfect, but it was far sharper in every way, and it let players feel genuinely optimistic about the future. But that optimism would be...
I didn't even fall for it. I think I did buy 2. But that was mostly because some of my friends got it, and I wanted to play with them. But I was not about to buy any of the DLC.
Wasted. Because not long after launch, players discovered that Bungie was secretly throttling XP gains to slow down how quickly players could earn Eververse rewards. On paper, XP should be used to be able to unlock free loot boxes containing cosmetic items, but in practice, Bungie had built a system deliberately limiting how often players could earn those rewards without paying. Now, this was just the start, because while the game felt content-rich at the start, the cracks started to show pretty quickly. Endgame...
A game, balanced around, the microtransactions is not a game. It's a job.
Progression was incredibly shallow, but that was by design, because only 3 months later, Bungie rolled out a $20 DLC and offered almost nothing, a single story mission, a strike, and a few scraps of content. It was the same cynical playbook that they had for Destiny 1's early expansions, and it confirmed what players were already starting to believe, that Bungie was not the beloved studio that they once were. They were a greedy one. By 2019, Bungie had shifted Destiny 2 to a free-to-play model, at least in name. In reality, multiple expansions.
Here's the biggest issue with that. You did nothing for the people that bought early. Nothing.
Expansions had already been out, so the cost of the full experience of the game was well over $80 at the time. Players could access a base layer of content, but most weapons, raids, and campaigns were locked behind paywalls. Free-to-play was nothing more than a marketing label, and the worst part about all that paid content is that it wasn't even yours. In 2020, with the launch of Beyond Light, Bungie vaulted nearly half of Destiny 2's content. Expansions players had paid for, entire campaigns like the Red War, Curse of Osiris, and Warmind, gone. Whole planets were deleted, exotic quests, weapons, and activities had vanished, all in the name of streamlining the experience. Bungie had claimed that it was necessary for technical reasons to introduce new systems and reduce file size, but no MMO or other live service game has ever done anything like this. It devalued years of support, erased content people had purchased, and it had made it feel like Bungie was forcing players forward into new expansions, whether they liked it or not. Now, you think after vaulting half of the game, Bungie would try to repair their relationship with their players, but instead of that, they just doubled down. The Witch Queen expansion was absolutely brilliant. God, I love that expansion so much, but underneath it came $20 paywall dungeons and expansion prices that crept up past the cost of a brand new game. in 2023 after Sony bought them, I thought that they would actually improve. I think a lot of people thought that they would, but things only got worse. Seasons got locked behind $10 to $15 paywalls, obfuscating.
And for those of you who are wondering, it was most definitely Sony. It wasn't them.
Through silver bundles that were always forcing you to overpay for them, followed by paywalled exotics, paid campaign skips, and an Eververse store that just kept ratcheting up prices while locking more cosmetics away. And through all of this, Bungie still had the nerve to market Destiny as a free-to-play game when it clearly isn't. The most frustrating part of all of this is that despite all of its flaws, Destiny 2 can have some incredibly high points. That's why people keep coming back to it. Expansions like...
That's the reason why Slime and those people play it. Is because it did have good points. It does have good... Like... It's clear that some of the people that work there still enjoy... Like, have passion for what they do.
Lightfall in 2023 pushed the game over 300,000 concurrent players on Steam, and Episode 1 Echoes sparked a similar surge. The game can be amazing when it delivers. The gunplay is unmatched. The raids are some of the best in the industry, and that's why people care enough to be angry in the first place. But the erratic quality combined with Bungie's obsession with squeezing their players for all their worth has left this game feeling hollow. That's why the game now sits at 25,000 concurrent players on Steam right now, its lowest ever. And honestly, who could blame anybody for leaving? Destiny 2 costs over $400 if you want access to the full game. It's locking content behind expansions that can vanish at any time while still asking for money at every turn. This is not the Bungie that made Halo. That's obvious now. Most of the original staff is gone, lost to layoffs, creative differences, scandals, or burnout, or whatever else. And what's left has shifted its perspective so far from we are our players that the quality has suffered and the trust is gone. Bungie was once one of the most renowned studios in the world. Now nobody gives them the benefit of the doubt because they have proven time and time again that they do not deserve it. They've abandoned their principles that they were founded on to the point where their own leadership openly dismisses the idea of delivering value to their players. At GDC 2023, Bungie's then general
Beware of over delivery. That's how you know you're not for your gamers.
manager, now CEO Justin Truman, gave a presentation on running a live service game where he literally argued that over delivering to your players is a bad thing. He said, if we release an expansion with 2 raids, the next year folks are going to be upset if there's only 1 raid. We've hurt the station by making a rogue decision in 1 train, but at the same time, and this is why the lesson is so painful, so much of quality and delight in our craft comes from over-delivery, right? From giving folks stuff beyond what they expected. We still want that. We still want to surprise and delight and sometimes overwhelm our players, but we need to be mindful of the patterns and the implied future commitments we've set for ourselves each time. Games media rushed in to defend Bungie at the time, claiming that players just didn't understand the full context of the conversation, but let's be real, that's a bullshit mentality. It does not benefit your customers in any way. You should be setting clear goals and delivering on them.
There's a difference between setting clear goals and over delivery. You can set a clear goal and do something a little extra, and like you can still make it clear that, hey, we were able to do this extra thing this time. Like, to avoid over delivery as a concept means you don't care. Means you don't. No, you're trying to justify doing less. Like, no one's like gonna bash you for doing 1 mission in the next grade, as long as that mission's still really good. Like, very few people are gonna hate you for it. Most people are gonna be, woo! Because you delivered something really good.
Simple as that. How disorganized, how inept is your leadership if you have to justify not creating patterns of quality? If you're afraid of actually setting positive expectations, that's not a strategy, it's cowardice.
Cowardness.
And that leadership,
exactly.
I think, is shown through bright as day when they revealed Marathon earlier this year, a hero-based extraction shooter. I didn't think you could be any more on the nose when it comes to trend chasing, but the reveal landed with a thud,
sorry,
uninspired,
Boka,
unwanted, instantly forgettable. Then came the controversy when fans discovered that Bungie had copied an indie artist's work for their art direct, and they go and blame it on a former employee that got swept up under layoffs. But true or not, intentional or not, it doesn't really matter. It only underscores just how disorganized and hollow this studio has become. And I'll be honest with you, I play...
Marathon's not coming out. I'm very confident in that.
Played the marathon pre-alpha, and it was the first time in all of my research that I actually felt like I was going to work. No soul, no spark. It was just an empty grind that just made it painfully clear that Bungie has not only sold away their principles, but their talent. The only thing that's left is a studio that is creatively bankrupt, and it's being run by management that has no idea what they're doing, and that's why Marathon is delayed indefinitely. Sony now sees the writing on the wall and that they've wasted their $3.6 billion investment. With Destiny 2 bleeding players and Marathon delayed indefinitely, they've begun stripping away Bungie's autonomy, preparing to fold the studio fully into PlayStation, likely dissolving it entirely. There's a really good chance that Bungie just won't exist after this. Bungie's story is tragic because it didn't have to be this way. They weren't some no-name studio that lucked into success. They were visionaries that once set a standard for the entire industry. They took shooters off of the PC and brought them to console. They created moments, memories, and communities that shaped an entire generation of players, and then they just sold it all away. Piece by piece, a studio that was its own customer became a studio that looked at its players as wallets to be drained. They traded their identity for contracts. They traded ambition for trends. They traded trust for microtransactions, and now they're just a shell of whatever they used to be. The community is fractured. Their flagship game is bleeding players. Their next project is a punchline, and the company itself is just now being stripped for parts. The truth is, Bungie isn't collapsing because of bad luck. They're collapsing because they abandoned the very philosophy that made them great. The people who once...
They abandoned their early adopters, meaning they abandoned their actual fans.
Played their own games, who built for themselves and invited us along for the ride, are gone. What's left is a company that doesn't even understand its audience anymore. A company who forgot what it was. And in this industry, when you lose that, you don't just fall, you get buried. I don't think that Marathon stands a chance. I don't see a world where that happens. Not without a vast reimagining. I'm talking about an almost entirely different game, which requires a lot more time and a lot more money, and I do not think those are things that Sony is going to be willing to give to them. I think that Sony's looking at this and saying, this is a company that's lost its trust, that's lost its talent, that's lost its organization, and they're likely regretting that $3.6 billion investment, or saying to themselves, let's just salvage whatever we can that still works. I'm deeply saddened to make a video like this. I would have never thought that this is where Bungie would end up. I really wouldn't. I mean, I've talked about this in other videos in the past, but Halo was largely the game that made me a gamer. Like, sure, I played games when I was younger, but at the same time, I never had games that I was, like, committed to. Games that became a part of my identity or part of my personality, or that led to me making a lot of other friends and memories and things like that. And, I mean, they drove me to want to make games of my own. I mean, I dropped out. I'm just not really built for programming, to be honest with you. But either way, that's still what their games did. Their games inspired others to do other things, to do great things, or try to do great things. And now their games only inspire criticism, hate, resentment. I really am of the mind that money corrupts all. And that the more...
I don't think money corrupts all. I think it's kind of the same aspect as power. Power eventually corrupts. Absolute power absolutely corrupts. Kind of thing. Except for there are people that break that mold. Some people, you can give them all the power in the world, and because they don't covet it, it doesn't corrupt them. Same thing with money. But the issue is you put someone that was absolutely, like, coveted of money and power in a position of power, and so he absolutely corrupted the company. Like, you were already slightly corrupted by some of your people, but then you just fully went all the way overboard.
The more that you're tempted by the ring, the more focus you lose, and the more focus you lose, everything starts to suffer as a result of it. I have no problem with these companies wanting to make money. I don't even have a problem with companies wanting to have microtransactions in their game. I really don't. The problem is that when that gets in the way of the quality of the experience and actually making something for the audience that you're putting it out there for. And when your greed is getting to the point where it's interfering with the process, with the quality, with the experience that you're delivering, you've already lost your company at that point. At least that's how it works in my eyes. I don't know if becoming a part of PlayStation is going to help them. Maybe it will. I mean, PlayStation's internal studios do relatively well for the most part, so maybe that ends up being a boon to them, and maybe it ends up working out. Maybe
The issue
is just stronger leadership and more.
The issue with that is that PlayStation has been a long way in coming just like Bungie, and the fact that they've lost They keep losing the message. And they are part of the reason why we're starting to get lots of censorship and stuff in games. They aren't even part of Japan anymore. There is no Japanese studio. They are not a Japanese gaming company anymore. They don't care.
Worst side. I mean, if you think about
it's all money to them.
They were at their peak when they had Microsoft over them. So, I mean, maybe this is exactly what they need. Maybe independence was the last thing that Bungie needed. Who knows? Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is probably going to be a long one. I had a lot to say. I didn't want to leave out any context. I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Absolutely,
Hope it wasn't too
absolutely.
long. If you guys did enjoy the video, share the video. Like the video, comment down below.
Give them a
subscribe
like,
to the channel,
guys.
follow me on
It's
Twitch, follow
the
me on Twitter,
drops.
Catch me live on Fridays.
We gotta give the drops.
Yeah,
the
that's all.
likes and the
Stay
views.
cool, stay righteous, stay safe. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.
Say bye. Say bye.
Where's it? Where's it? Family. 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 Alright. Yeah, we can watch the other thing too. But yeah, that was the drop. Bye.